A colorful, warm landscape is our next project. Let's get started.
I love a good landscape, and this one is just so joyful and it's about to be so colorful. We always start with the sky with a landscape because it's the furthest thing in the background. And so if we paint anything else, we can go on top of bits of the sky and cover it up. Unless it's a night sky, then there might be some other things we do first, but we're gonna just roll with this. Sky first. I'm deciding to use some bright colors for my sky because why not? I'm moving my paintbrush in a horizontal motion to create these lines of color across the sky. You'll notice I'm keeping my colors very light so that I can smudge and smear them together as they overlap. Ideally, you want to work with the sky while it's all wet at the same time so you get even blending between your colors. However, as long as you're moving your brush horizontally across the sky, even if things dry kind of quickly, you'll still end up with a beautiful horizontal expanse of a sky. I'm using blue, purple to red to kind of simulate a sunset, but keeping colors that are analogous or in color order. So you could also do a red, orange to yellow, or a blue to a blue, purple to a purple. So as long as you're going in sort of rainbow order, you can make a beautiful sunset sky. Of course, you could also just pick one color or just a nighttime sky by doing a darker blue, mixing blue with black. You can really do anything. Here I'm mixing up a color for my mountains. Mountains should be a cool color to make them feel far away and distant. You might have noticed in photography or even in paintings that mountains are often blue or gray or purple. So I'm trying to kind of mix those together. I mixed blues and purples and added some brown to make them less bright. Now I'm creating my first layer over the mountains and I'm painting everything a light purpley gray blue. Lots of water, a little bit of the paint I mixed up, and I want that color to stop somewhere when the mountains stop. It could go a little bit lower, but that's our field in the middle there. So we want to have a spot where the mountain color will stop and our field color will start. So I'm moving across the mountains and down to where the field will eventually be. I'm making sure to keep this first layer light because I'm going to be adding shadows to my mountains, which will make them look more 3D. Now, while my mountains are drying before I add the shadow, I'm going to go ahead and add some of my hilly, not really hilly actually, flat field of green. I'm mixing some light yellow and green for the hill, or why do I keep calling it a hill? For the field. And I'm going to spread that everywhere. Again, using lots of water to spread and move it closer to the front. I want to make sure it stays light, especially as I get towards the front, because I need to be able to paint the color of my flowers on top of this light green. Lots of water, a little bit of yellow and green together, that's what's making it more bright and light. And then I'm not actually going to keep all of the green a yellow green because I can use color theory to make some of it look further away. Even though the drawing already helps create distance, there are also tricks for how you color something to make it feel closer or further away. I already mentioned this with the mountains. The mountains are a cool color because that helps them look further away. So before I go back to my mountains, I'm going to get a little bit of a more bluish green, or at least less yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of shadow to the very back of the field to make that cooler green seem further away. That will help create the difference between right next to me where the flowers are and the further away field. Okay, now we're going to go back to thinking about those mountains and adding the shadows on the mountains. I am using the same color that I mixed up for my mountains already, but because I'm adding a second layer, it will automatically look darker. Now, you'll notice on your mountains that there are shapes on one side of the mountains and just lines on the other. The side with the shapes are there to help you paint around the shapes to create a shadow on that side. The lightest value that will stay inside the shapes is kind of like snow, but because it's on the back of the mountain, which is where the snow would form because it has less sunlight, it's still not perfectly white snow because it's in shadow. So I'm painting a darker layer around those snowy patches that haven't melted from the sunlight yet. You also need to decide with your shadow where the sides of the mountain are going to be. So wherever you end your shadow color, Next to that will be the other side of the mountain, where the light is going to hit and create that 3D effect. Notice how sometimes when the mountains are really close together, like these two peaks, you only have a small section to leave light in between the snow patches. And so paying attention to that would be helpful, but if it gets covered up, it's not the end of the world. They could be on the same side of the mountain. Maybe there is no other side on that more center mountain. Again, we're trying to paint around those shapes, so you're really kind of dancing on the tip of your paintbrush to try to get in between them. You can go ahead and bring that shadow all the way down to the grass, especially on those faces of the mountain that are go all the way down. And then they got this mountain that goes kind of off the edge of the paper, so don't worry about really where the color ends, but just, again, pay attention to where you create the edge, and so where the faces of the mountains switch. Now you could stop here, but I like to go on the shiny, lighter side of the mountain and add just a few little dashes of shadow, because even on that side of the mountain, there might be some divots or edges that kind of bend or break in, and they create a little bit of shadow. So I go and add just a few random wiggly lines, making sure I don't cover up all the light, just to show dimension on that side of the mountain as well. Now we get to go and add fun colors to all of the flowers. Think about a group of colors of flowers that will go well together. Do you want to use analogous color flowers that all kind of match or similar colors? Do you want to choose a pair of complementary colors, colors that are opposite to make the flowers stand out? Some flowers actually grow in nature next to their complementary colored flower because it attracts more pollinators because the colors are so vibrant. But maybe you want your colors to match your landscape. So I've been using blues, purples, and pinks in my background. So I think I'm going to use some purples and pinks in my flowers because it'll kind of match the sky behind it. Also, if you want any of the grass or greenery to stand out, you might want to add some darker values of those too. So have fun filling in those flowers. As they dry, you can add more shadows to where the petals overlap, and that can create another more 3D effect and make them look a little more realistic. Since they're nice and close to us, we have room to add those shadows too. Flowers that are far away from us can just be little dots and dashes. We don't have to worry about being exact, but it can be fun to suggest that this flower field continues off into the distant. So just go ahead and add a few more little dashes or dots of colors while you've got the color on your brush, and then those flowers can be getting smaller and smaller as they fade away into the field. I hope you had fun with this one. It's fun to create a sky, and it's exciting to learn how to make mountains look a little bit more 3D, thinking about which sides have shadow and light. Hopefully your flowers are looking fabulous, as I know they probably are, and you should be proud of what you created. I can't wait to see you in the next exercise. Well, next painting, whatever you want to call it. See you soon.